Good evening, good night, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. You have just watched the mighty Nearco winning the Grand Prix de Paris in 1938 at Longchamp. Nearco, unbeaten, was bred and owned by Senatore Federico Tesio and by Marchese Mario Incisa della Rocchetta under the banner of Razza Dormello Getta. When he went to stud, Nearco, with his progeny, completely changed the world of the thoroughbred. You should bear in mind that nowadays, wherever there is a race, I'm talking about thoroughbred, all over the world, at least over 90% of the horses running, they carry Nearco's blood. And this is a phenomenal achievement. For the program today, we have a guest, something unusual, I should say. His name is Arian Allaray. Welcome to the program.
Buongiorno, Dr. Carlo. Thank you for having me.
Now you speak Italian, okay, but the other people, they will not understand, unfortunately. Ariane is a good friend. We went racing many times together in the UK, and he is what we call a professional punter. Can you introduce briefly yourself? How did you start? Why you start being involved in horse racing, etc.?
Good morning, Carlo, and thank you for having me. Yes, this is a journey which, in a way, had a long twist in my life and in my career now, what I do. But I would say the first initial contact with the horses was a long time ago when I was 6.5, 7-year-old. And I used to go with my grandparents and my uncle. My mom used to take me there when I used to finish school. After I started, obviously, first year of school, every 3 months, used to go in a village where I used to live, and they used to breed horses and other animals they had. But my first contact with a foal when I was 6.5 years old, and that was around. I was excited. They told me 6.5, 7, and 1 o'clock after midnight. That was my first contact with a foal, and that was a love, first love, basically. And he continued.
Sorry if I missed to say that you are Albanian. So these things happen in Albania.
Yeah, this is. I'm originally from Albania, and I moved to UK 26 years ago or so. But that was in Albania, so I was a city boy. So grow up. My mom was a teacher. My dad was a well-known high ranks colonel in the army. But I used to take me to spend my holidays there because I was excited, the freedom, getting out of the city, and that continued for the years to come. When I was then almost 8, 9, 10 until I was 14, I used to go regularly there, and I used to love. That was a love and a passion with the horses, especially the yearlings and the 2-year-olds. That was that excitement to me, the first contact with them. And when I used to go there, I used to always carry a rope around my waist. I was kind of, obviously I couldn't carry a bridle gear all the time with me, so I used to keep that when I used to go in Alpine lands or whatever, because I used to, create a bond with the babies. Every year there were new babies, basically. I remember actually a good story. One of these years, I think I was 10-year-old, and I just as I walked to my grandparents' place, they had a big place, and I headed straight to the paddock, and I can see this gray, a beautiful gray, and he was kind of winging and obviously making sounds, and I go close and stroking and all that. And funny enough, my uncle just coming along and said, to kind of get him to talk to you and everything. I said, I don't know, it's just the energy, vibe, you should love me. I said, they probably had a hard time with you guys, every day, or they were bored with you. So that's where it started, basically. So rewind a few years back, obviously after that, basically, I just started getting on with my city life, and the interests, they change when you get a teenager, etc. So with the studies, the girls, etc. So that's the life, changes, So I went obviously to uni, but after I came in England, a few years, I met this gentleman called Peter Filmer from South Africa, and initially we started just briefly chatting, where we came from and what he did, etc. Obviously, he was very much involved in horse racing. He had a similar background because his mother in South Africa used to breed horses, and she was a good breeder. And he had set an operation in UK,
as a professional
in London, and
hunter.
yeah, exactly. He started from scratch, but he was very, very, very intelligent man, and I'm very privileged to have known him, and in a way, my mentor in my journey in UK. And then, anyway, so we're talking briefly, just sharing the passion, wherever I was meeting him. Anyway, a few years later, he was just mentioning, "What are you doing? Why don't you come and maybe join us in training?" Because I was very good in maths and physics, but maths used to be my forte at school. And I said, "I'll think about it." I wasn't kind of ready. I didn't know what exactly, like the scale of the operation, etc. So one of these days, I went in a trading room at his setup, basically at St. James's in Guildford, actually, at the beginning and after St. James. But I just found it like amazing. He started from nothing, and we had like people in at his headquarters, wherever he was working, either Guildford or London. They used to look after the daily basis of, like, if you had like people. We had our own handicapping system. We had the traders, we had the video replay guys, and we had the people on the paddock. Every race course in England and beyond, in Ireland and Hong Kong, we used to have as a last piece of jigsaw. At the beginning, I didn't like the hectic kind of every 5-minute races in a trading room, and I wasn't sure, basically, so I didn't enjoy it, And he was asked me after a few days, a week. He said, I said, "Peter, I don't think this is for me." He said, "Okay, maybe we'll send you to the paddock, because I just love the animal, the physical aspect of the animal, of a racehorse. For me, it was just something different." So I started first time. I was in Saddle with a guy called David Evans. Is in Australia actually now, and that was my first day as a sort of a pupil with him, so he can kind of show me the few things we were looking and interested on the paddock. And we started from there, but after a couple of weeks, there was a bit of feedback. So some people they would take or not take, into that. So how I was progressing. So Peter checked with him. And I was like, I was flying, absolutely flying. He said, unbelievable. He could be on his own. It's different level, like, to come across other pupils. So that's the beginning. So there where it started.
If I interrupt you, but then you moved to Hong Kong, if I'm not right, if I'm not wrong.
No, at the beginning, you're right. I didn't move to Hong Kong. I wasn't permanent. I was my first journeys for Peter was covering horse racing in Ireland and Hong Kong, certain years, because we had somebody covering permanent in Hong Kong. But in Hong Kong, I was like, in November to January, that season. So, but my first work was Ireland weekends, and occasionally 1 or 2 days in UK. That was 2000. 2002, 2003. So I was doing these trips flying to Ireland.
Okay, so at the beginning you have been employed as a paddock man, either in
Correct.
both
Correct.
Ireland and Hong Kong. But for what I have seen in my life, I've been to Hong Kong once, in one time in 2005. I've been to Ireland many times. I have to say that Hong Kong is probably the most difficult place in the world for somebody choosing a winner, because all the races are handicaps and a lot of runners. And then, in my opinion, is the most difficult jurisdiction to work in. So I think that your work as a paddock man was extremely important, because to select the form was nearly not, I don't say nearly impossible, but very, very difficult. So the condition of the horses in the paddock, in the pre-parade ring, I think that is a must there.
Absolutely. To have that edge, especially on such a competitive uh, races, competitiveness of racing in Hong Kong, the margins are very, very fine, and it actually absolutely made me even a sharper and a better analyst or judge on a paddock. So in a way, it depends how you see an animal. I do believe that horses.
Sorry if I interrupt you briefly, but the audio is not perfect. So you might have to go close to the microphone and talking a little bit slowly.
Okay. Is it better? Is it better
Yes.
now?
Yes.
Okay. So the advantage of the paddock, especially when there is fine margins on these very competitive races, is absolutely a must. And Peter was a great believer of that. And we were very successful there as well as a setup. And we used to race twice a week, as you know. But we obviously used to. Peter used to play mainly the forecast, tri-cast, and because the returns and the gains that were far greater, rather than backing a horse on his own all the time, like in UK, in Britain, and other parts of the world. But that sort of selection on the paddock was a must. As I was trying to say a few seconds ago, animals, horse races are all different shapes and sizes, and they do all win at their level. But the most important thing is, for us, or for me personally, over the years, it has made me realize then that you have the niche, understanding these physical specimens, the shapes, the sizes. But the most important thing is, for me, when I analyze the horse, is the way how this animal carries his body weight, how he moves, how he transfer his movement from A to B, and minimizing the loss of the ground. And it's important to point here for people listening, the ground is important as well when you carry this weight, the action on the ground, because they have to benefit to gain. Even the margin of the short head or head is such a important and key aspect for me, especially. So in Hong Kong, actually made me a better at understanding and having that edge of these horses, even at the finer margins.
Okay, now if you don't mind, we have a short break, but please don't go away. Stay with us. Ariane, I think that you have revealed something absolutely important. So people watching the program, they should understand once again, because in the past I had on stage Eddie Fremantle, who is another professional punter, expert for the paddock. Then we had Ken Peterson, that is another guy that he has spent all his life looking at the horses in the paddock. And then when I write articles, most of the time, I try to explain to the readers how important is to have a look at the horses in the paddock before having any decision of backing a horse or another one, or maybe not backing any horse in the race. Then when you definitely move to the UK, if I'm not wrong, you decided to go on your own on this business.
Yeah, after certain years working for Peter, and as I would love to kind of say, it's just it become the hobby, the passion, and the everyday life being around these animals. But at the same times, suddenly a bug, is kind of injected, in me over the years working. So now I can't suddenly, after the years working for Peter, move and go and look to work for somebody else, stuck in shelves in supermarkets. No disrespect, but it just, so I decided because over the years I've seen hundreds of thousands of animals, horses, and I've traveled from, as I said, from Ireland to Hong Kong to France, you name it, and from Perth to Exeter over 21, 22 years. So now the years they catch in and all those miles. So I decided I can concentrate mainly south of England, most of times throughout the years. Some other days, obviously, I can go wherever good races. So with a family, task, etc. So I decided to concentrate and work for myself. But it's very important. I thought if I can plan and choose where to go and focus in certain races, hopefully I'll make it a success. Everything was here, all the knowledge gained, probably a PhD, over the years, in horse racing. So so I do love it. It's, for me, it's a passion, it's a hobby, and trying to make a living, which is it's not easy, but it's important for me to be on the paddock to see the animals, because these horses, don't forget, Carla, they can be trained and they can be flying at the gallops and etc., etc. But by the time that day comes to the races, things can change. The horse maybe hasn't been eating well, maybe hasn't been traveling well to race course, maybe whatever happened during. So at them half an hour, 20 minutes when they do the warm up, which I do believe strongly. Every athlete should warm up around the pre-parade and parade. So these athletes, all their muscles, they should warm up. Then I can look at them, and maybe over the years I've seen, as I said, hundreds of thousands of horses. The names, they don't come up so easy. But one thing with me is the photographic memory. I'm absolutely close to lethal. Once I've seen that horse come in from the first run to the fourth or fifth, I can see the changes, the transformation, the progression or the regression of that particular horse. So that is, for me, is very important. And that's where I kind of excelled. And over years, I try to keep to those races.
Yes,
2 and 3 year olds.
I think that, of course, you have to go racing to do that, because you can't do that from home. But I think that Correct. You have what you're doing in this work, that, as I say many, many times, is a work 24/7, more or less, because I think that you do some homework as well, because you have
I do. I do homework. My homework is different to a form man, which is sitting on the sofa and working on a desktop. My main work is traveling to the races and getting that vital piece of information about the racehorse, about the athlete. I believe strongly on a physical specimen of a racehorse. That's for me is the most important thing, because
Yes,
everybody can do the breeding from home. Everybody can do the form at home, and I could be the best student of form. Peter trained me and told me from A to Z. But the niche, my niche is on the paddock, and I can write down certain aspects of certain horses. Don't get me wrong. I don't put on my book every single horse. I do create my own book and my own stable and my own horses. And these horses I follow throughout the year. I don't mean I follow every single horse out there, because if I don't like her or him as a specimen, I grade them, and the one I love them, the one I like, and the one I'm just, so. But I still can put, because I can place that particular horse down the line, so I can have my own handicapping system. The minute I see a horse on the paddock, my algorithms in my head, I always, I build my work. I read a few books recommended over the years by friends, especially by Peter. The most important book which I read, called The Checklist, wrote by Atul Gawande, is the book which I believe and strongly base my work. If on my checklist I written a 10 rules I have to follow, I have to base, and everything goes by the checklist, and everything is implemented by the checklist. That book I would recommend. It's fascinating, a fantastic book. It's used across industries, aviation, and other businesses around the world, healthcare, others. And the other one is, which I do recommend, Thinking Fast and Slow, because for me, especially, it's written by Daniel Kahneman, is so important. I've got a gap window once I see the horses. 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes. If I'm lucky during the summer, could be a 10-minute. But in the winter, around Kempton and around Chelmsford, Wolverhampton, could be a 5 minutes. Once the horses are gone to pole, I've got that thinking fast and slow what to do, because there could be 10 or 14 horses. Now, all the algorithms in my head, decided, even though I've got a narrative of I'm interested on 2 or 3 horses, or sometimes 4, or sometimes 1. Then the decision or algorithms, what to do, kicks in.
Yes, but I think that you have to take note in your book, and then when you go racing, maybe that you have a look at the notes as well.
Absolutely correct. But sometimes, for example, if I go at Wolverhampton, there are most of times horses which I've seen down south, but there could be horses coming from, let's say, Yorkshire, coming. So the puzzle becomes a little bit more, even though I can analyze the horse on the spot, and I've seen 1 or 2 replays if they are in front of the market, or sometimes it doesn't have to be in front of the market. I'm there to beat the market and make my own odds. I would like to be, sometimes when people around go to the paddock and people say, I like this, I like that. So everybody likes the same horse. And believe you me, that same horse more often doesn't win. So I don't want to be always with the flow with everybody. I want to have my own niche or my own horse, which I like. So it could be an outsider. Sometimes you're surprised, at 66 to 1. So
yes, and then what sort of role the odds play in your way of betting, investing money?
Absolutely, that is the most important thing. On the checklist I use, all the rules. That is probably the main rule. Number 1, the risk-reward ratio. If you don't factor the risk-reward ratio, don't forget, these are the athletes. And if somebody comes out there and said, this is the certainty, I would disagree. There's nothing certainty in horse racing. As you know, these horses, if there are 10 or 14, They start from the gate, they have a draw, but at home, they train amongst 2 or 3, and they are doing their work. When they're argy-barging, and suddenly mentally, don't forget, these animals, they're very clever, very intelligent. For people to understand them in detail, are clever than humans, I would say. When it comes to racing, it's like an athlete. Suddenly at home, we racing at home, we're warming up for Olympics and everything, and we are 2 against each other, just going on our pace and everything. When you go live, suddenly 14 horses, and they're trying to fight for that position, and the horse thing, in his head is thinking, what's happened? That never happened to me. So suddenly they hesitate, to go for the gap. Some of them, some are brave, some not. So it's very important, the risk ratio factor, because if you eliminate sometimes, horses are too short, but there are like few dangers in the race, which you can analyze. We all have different ways. Then it becomes, for me, investable. A horse which is, let's say, a bigger price, not necessarily, but I think it's got as good a chance as the second favorite. For me, that's investable. When the horse is favorite, and in my eyes, it's got 2 dangers equally, if you can see the form, or personally on me, if there are younger horses that come in a paddock, not many people know the form. When these 2-year-olds, they come, or 3-year-olds, they had 1 round. People, they've got very little form. So now suddenly, what is the advantage? My advantage is, almost kind of analyzing and bringing these horses, level. So I analyze the way they move, the way they are conditioned, the way they carry themselves, their behavior, their attitude, how they take in the preliminaries, and how they're going to pose. Everything is a fine detail. So when you put them all together and give the right weight, the right value, that is absolutely paramount important. If somebody tells you, oh, this is certainty, it's never certainty.
No. So anyway, at the end of the day, you have analyzed all the horses, the behavior, the condition, and all these sorts of things. But then, before you place any bet, I think that you will consider the odds of the horse, because if you like horse number 5, and horse number 5, I don't know, is 2 to 1, it could be possible that you think that is not worth 2 to 1, but is worth 4 to 1. So you might come to the conclusion that you have to lay the horse instead of backing him.
I'll never lay a horse if I like the horse. That's rule number 1. I've done that mistake maybe few times. If the horse, I don't lay horses on the price. There are other people that do that. If I like a horse, I never lay the horse, just price. I back horses of the price. I only lay horses I believe are good enough to win. And I have 2 horses. I believe strongly they can beat that one. I only can do that, not on the price, because horse doesn't know the price. But some people, they can do that and they show profit in a year, but I don't operate on that. I only can lay a horse if I do believe is, in my opinion, doesn't move correctly, carries a condition, structure-wise, he doesn't like the ground, he moves, he's got this action or that action. There are so many in my little book, which I keep. And now they are in my head, obviously, because over the years I don't, even in old days when I used to work for Peter, we used to use codes, certain codes, because we couldn't say for like 1 minute, now this horse so. We used to have a number. So that number meant a code. So now in my head, I've got a book which I created, and I have that particular horse, and I can compare than is. But I never lay a horse, to answer your question, solely on price. Some people they do, which good luck to them.
Yeah.
Everybody is different.
So, anyway, to come to the conclusion of this very fascinating and interesting conversation with you, I have to say that your work is a very demanding one. It's more or less 24/7. You have to go racing at least, I think, 5 days a week, because I know that you have a family. I know your family. You have a wonderful wife, and wonderful kids. So you have
Thank
to
you.
look after them as well. So anyway, let's say
Absolutely.
that you go racing 5 days a week. Every time that you go to a race course, because I came several times with you, you have to be, you are very concentrated, so you don't need people disturbing you when you do this, when you examine a horse, when you come to your conclusion. And then I have to say that it's a very demanding job, but at the end of the day, you are very successful. So I hope you will be able to carry on this way for a long time. I wish to thank you for your time because, as I said before, I think that you have explained very well how a professional punter should behave to be successful. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope to see you soon. Have a nice day.
Thank you for having me, Carlo, and hope to see you soon when you come to England. Ciao.
Okay, thank you very much. Ciao.